Today is part 2 with my friend Robert Woldhuis, and so good to have you back.
Good to be here again.
All right,
Yeah.
Great. Seems like you were in prison as we left off.
I was just starting out a 3 to 10 year sentence. An eventful part of life.
Yeah, right. Just what you always dreamed for.
So it was a prison in Nevada, High Desert State Prison was where I went. Sentenced to 3 to 10. The first year was just getting acclimated in the general population. I thought I was done getting in trouble when I went to prison. But I still had some street mentality in me. I could pull a little scam. I could pull a little this. I could bend a little here, do a little this.
Can work this way, yeah.
And I worked some angles that I had that were illegal and ended up getting found out and confronted by some of the staff there about what I was doing. It was some credit card stuff with people on the outside. And when you get in trouble when you're in prison, they send you to the hole.
What's that like?
I got sentenced to 2 years.
In the hole?
In the hole.
2 years?
2 years. So the hole, everybody thinks it's like this dark, dingy place, and it's dark mentally. It's not so dingy, but I was the only person in a 6-foot wide, 14-foot long cell for 23 hours a day. And my room faced north, so I didn't really get to see a lot of sunrise or sunset. I was overlooking a grassy hill. Once a week, I'd see some guy fly by on a lawnmower, and I'd try to wave just for human interaction.
And you did that for 2 years?
2 years.
What'd you learn about Robert in 2 years?
The first few months were tough because you're in a brand new place, brand new everything. You can't really communicate with anybody. Communication was basically sliding a little piece of paper on a string under the door and trying to get it in someone else's door so that you could write and communicate like that. The whole has a way of bringing you to the end of yourself. I remember waking up one day and just feeling God say to me, "Are you done yet? Really? Are you done? Your best efforts at life have landed you right here. So how's that working out for you?" And I just pondered that. I remember pondering that all day.
Wow.
Like, yeah, my best efforts at life have gotten me 2 years in the hole. And I remember saying, "I'm ready." I wrote my mom and I said, "I want to get started on that Bible study course. I got some time. I want to earn my certificate now."
Okay.
So she got me signed up. And I just started making conscious choices with the use of my time while I was there. I wasn't going to accomplish a whole lot, but I could write letters to people.
Yeah.
I could start connecting again.
So where'd you get the Bible study to send you? Where did that come from?
Yep, Crossroads Prison Ministries.
Okay.
And that's who they used back when I first started getting in trouble. I was familiar with the lessons, and the thing I liked best about it was the letter that I received back from the mentors. So it wasn't just about a Bible study back and forth, but what was special to me was always that letter that somebody wrote. Being after that 2 years, then they gave me the opportunity to go back into general population, and then I applied to go to a prison camp in northern Nevada. That was probably the best choice and use of my time. For 2 years, I was a wildland firefighter and got to go out in the mountains of Nevada and Utah and fight fire for a whole $1 an hour for the state of Nevada.
Wow.
I got to hike in places I don't think some humans probably have ever been. Just some amazing experiences. Our first fire, we got helicoptered into the top of this mountain, 16,000 acre fire, and our job was to just perimeter and make sure it wasn't going any further into a population area.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it was a fun experience.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah. In northern Nevada with the fire season, it's a big thing. And when we weren't doing fires, it's picking up trash or doing other camp
More
duties.
of chain gang thing. That you see
Chain
on
gang
movies
thing.
that you
Like
think,
we put in miles and miles of fence post. Oh, I'm good. I'm good with a fence post pounder.
Wow.
Yeah. So the last 2 years were making more conscious choices about what kind of media am I filling my head with. Did some more Bible studies with some TV choices that I had. I started writing to some people from my parents' church because I knew I was going to come back. I knew I was going to live with my parents, hopefully, if they were going to have me.
Okay.
And so I started connecting with some people there. Harvey Koenig was one. He was a business owner here in Grand Rapids. And I remember writing to him and just saying, I don't want a handout when I get out, but if you have any kind of work to put me to work, I'd be a happy employee. Pete Steensma was another guy that wrote to me. He was an older gentleman at my parents' church, and just a guy's guy through and through, and just wrote encouraging stuff to me as I was there. So it was good to feel like I was connecting again with some people. Getting out of prison, my parents and I had to have that conversation. What's living here going to look like? I'm in my late 30s. And they haven't lived with me in years. So there's very much apprehension. What's it going to be like living with this guy? You just got out of prison. Is he going to reoffend right away? Because that was my history. I've earned that.
Yeah.
I earned people being skeptical of what I was saying. 1,000%.
Yeah.
But they allowed me back in, and we had rules, some house rules, and as they should be. I needed house rules.
Right.
So
Same thing that said when you're a teenager. This
Right.
is for your good. You need this.
getting out of prison, though, this time, so I got out of prison in 2015,
Okay.
and getting out of prison this time was different for me because I just felt like I'm ready to just start this new chapter, and I knew that the change was here.
Okay.
And I just wanted so badly for everybody else to just know it too. But rightfully so, a lot of people were very standoffish. My sister didn't want anything to do with me. My oldest son didn't want, don't be Facebook friends with me. I'm cool. I'm just going to sit back and watch for a minute. And I remember being so frustrated over that. But I'm different. I'm sober. Like, set me back. But some very wise people in my life said the Holy Spirit will make that happen. It's not up to you.
Okay.
Your job is to clean up your side of the street and to just live a life that's part of the change. When I said I'm ready in that cell in the hole, part of that change was realizing that I wasn't honoring the lives of my two sons that I lost.
Wow.
And it was knowing deeply that if they were still alive, like the way I'm acting is not honoring
Oh my goodness.
their life
Yeah.
at all. And that weighed very heavily
Wow,
on
that's
me.
powerful.
And so the call to come back by the Father, the call to come back was, yes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to start living that life that's worthy. I'm going to start living a life that honors who they were. Coming back was tough. Harvey Koenig ended up offering me a position to work. So I had employment coming out. For somebody coming out of prison, that's a huge stress.
Huge.
Because your parole officer wants to know, where are you working? Where are you living? You got to come see me. You got to pee in a cup. You got to do this. You got all these things you got to do. And luckily, Harvey was the right employer for that. I was completely transparent with him about this is where I have to go. This is what I have to do. And he would make time for me in my workday to go and do those things.
If you don't have an advocate like that on the outside helping you,
It's tough.
it makes it very easy to end up going back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Ended up doing some work for Pete Steensma, too,
Okay.
the other guy who wrote to me. And I remember when I got out of prison, the first thing he said to me is, he goes, I know you started running when you were in prison, but he goes, I bought you a ticket, or he called it a ticket. He goes, I bought you a ticket to go to that riverbank thing. And I said, that's like 15 miles or something. Like, I've only ever ran 6. No, I'm not doing that. And he was like, oh no, you can do it. You can do it.
Really?
No, here. And so I ended up going, and I did the whole thing and finished in just under 3 hours. And I was so sore, but I remember sharing a picture with that medal with him, and he was very proud.
Yeah.
And it's good to just have investment opportunities like that. If there's a returning citizen at your church, Pete never preached to me. Pete never pulled out the Bible and made me recite anything out of it, but Pete was just real with me and walked alongside me as just another guy.
And at that point, he actually believed in you more than you did.
Probably.
You can do this race. You can run it.
I didn't believe. No. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. A few years later, I was able to apply to the Riverbank Run, and I ended up getting an ambassador position with them, which was a lot of fun. So,
wow. What does an ambassador do at one of those runs?
They call them road warriors.
Oh, okay.
So for about 6 months, you basically do just fundraising and race promotion, just getting involved in the community. And it's just a great opportunity to run and have some fun and get plugged in with some people. Very supportive community. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Wow. So getting out, God was blessing you with some pretty significant people.
Yes.
Yeah. How'd it go with your parents?
My dad worked for Ionia State Prison for 30-some years. So
That put him in an interesting position, didn't it?
And my mom was a church organist, and my dad's working for the prison, and I know that a lot of my behavior was probably very embarrassing on a lot of levels.
Sure.
I've got 2 sisters and a brother that are doing just fine. And when your son's name has to constantly come up in prayer request time at church, or when people are constantly maybe even afraid to ask about your son, they'd rather just talk about the 3 that are doing okay. That's conversations easier to have.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of just talks with my parents. I think just really them getting to know me. And I remember my mom saying one time, she said, I just feel like your soul is more at peace. Like you're not chasing anymore. You're not. And we talked about that for a second. I remember saying to her, this is the first time in my life that I really like being me.
Wow.
I've came to terms with some stuff and worked through some, and I like being me.
Oh, that's big.
Coming out of prison and just getting plugged in with some church stuff and getting plugged in with Celebrate Recovery was big. Started to talk about my story a few times with different churches and that sort of thing. But remember, I got kicked out of South Christian.
Right.
So somebody from South Christian found out that I had gotten out and I was doing some of this stuff, and I got invited to speak at their chapel one year.
Really? Wow. So what was your topic?
Just my life.
Just your life.
Come in and share your testimony.
Yeah.
And I remember standing on that stage, and it was just a surreal moment because it was still the old school I went to. It was before they moved locations.
Right, yeah.
And it was just a surreal moment to think, back in 1994, they told me, leave and don't come back. And here I am. I don't discount God.
No.
At all.
And now they're calling you to come back.
And it was an honor to just talk to some of the kids and talk to some of the educators that were there too, because there were people there from back when I was still going there. It was powerful on a lot of, and I was able to reconnect with Pete Dykema.
Okay.
And I apologized. I apologized for being an unruly donkey's rear in school, and just generally being a numbskull.
Yeah. How did he receive that?
He told me, he said, I always knew, like, he goes, I just had this sadness that you weren't living the fullness, the full life that Christ had for you, I think is how he put it.
Okay.
And that struck me, like, you saw that there was so much more, and I'm just narrowing myself to this. And that was your frustration. It wasn't like you're punishing me for that. It's your frustration is I'm not allowing myself to live this fullness that you knew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good stuff. So, Celebrate Recovery. What part of that seemed like it helped you the most?
When I was in prison, my mom signed me up she sent me a book, it was Celebrate Recovery Inside. The thing I like most about Celebrate Recovery is that it takes the principles of AA, and it aligns them with Scripture. So now you have your 12 steps, but it also gives the scriptural backup for, like, why are we saying we believe in this step?
Right.
And this is why. And I liked having the higher power in its place. I remember going to AA even when I didn't want to subscribe to God, let's say. And I remember thinking the people that wanted to call their couch their higher power, I'm like, you are just like, what? Come on. So we have the meetings were good, and it was really just a big sense of community. I went to Impact Church in Lowell, and they had a Celebrate Recovery program there, and I went faithfully and just poured myself into it. I needed that the first few years I was out. I needed the protection. Yeah.
Oh, that was there for you. That's amazing. So what comes after that?
So we got Celebrate Recovery. I was back to the devil. How about let's talk about the devil? Sure.
The one on your chest?
The one on my chest, yeah.
Okay.
So, devil's on my chest. I get out of prison and everything's changed. And every time I go and shave in the morning, wash my face, I got to sit there and I got to look at that staring back at me. And I was embarrassed at that point in my life. Now I'm embarrassed by it. I didn't want to be associated with that. So I had started saving up a little bit of money for that, and Pete Steensma ended up just asking me, he said, how much is that silly thing going to cost to get off of you? And so I got a quote from the tattoo artist and he said, I just want to do it right now. Get the devil off of you.
How do you get the devil off you? How do you do it?
You got to cover him up real good. I did not opt for the laser cover. The transformation now is I chose very intentionally to get the devil covered up by a cross.
Oh, perfect.
And it's a cross. It looks like it's splashing in water, and it's got Roman numerals, my baptism date, February 8th of 2011. And to me, it just covers up. I don't even think about that devil there anymore because I know it's covered.
He's been conquered.
He's absolutely 1,000%.
That's great.
So again, it's the declaration, right? It's whose flag am I waving? And that act in and of itself, getting that done, was so transformational for me. Just, I'm waving a different flag now.
Tell me a little bit about, you got this tattoo artist. And you're getting this redone. That takes some time, right?
Yeah. It was a couple sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's going through you? What are you thinking about? What's happening as that's being transformed and changed? What's going on the inside as they're making that happen?
The tattoo artist that I had, her name is Amy, and she was the perfect person to do that tattoo.
Okay.
She should have a degree in psychology somehow. Just knows how to walk people through their journey and kind of talk with them through.
So she's talking with you the whole time she's doing that? Really?
Yeah, and just tell me about your story and what led you to this and why and that kind of information helps her with the design too, because there was no, this is on paper and this is how it's going to be. It was just this is what I'm thinking, and I'm going to let you have artistic license on my body.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it turned out better because you did it that way, probably.
Yeah.
So she's designing it as she's doing it. Wow.
I had a lot of faith in her.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's something now that I will glad my mom, the devout Christian Reformed lady that she is, that's anti-tattoo, said that's one tattoo that I kind of
really
like
like.
that because it's not the devil.
I'm a spontaneous guy, so I would say, why don't you take off the bow tie and the shirt and let's see it
Do that
on the next one. Okay.
Gotta save something for later. Can't show all my goods.
Okay. I just let you know what
Yeah.
I was thinking and where that would go.
I hear
So
you.
someday we'll do that. Oh boy, that's something. So
With Celebrate Recovery, the place where I'm at now is getting back plugged in again with them.
Okay.
But this year is 12 years sober for me, which is that's the first time I've been 12 years of anything except for staying alive.
wow, yeah, 12 years. Congratulations.
It's a journey I'm glad I'm here to speak about.
Yeah.
Because there were plenty of opportunities for things to go the other way. Numerous times on the streets in Vegas, taking drugs from people I didn't know, sharing needles,
Yep.
being confronted with a gun from somebody that wanted my drugs more than I wanted them,
Wow.
seeing people fights and stabbed in prison, just all the little potential things, all the craziness. I definitely felt through it all
Sure.
a hedge of protection around. And it's not even like I was protected from it all, but I felt,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So having spent all the time in jails, in and out, then time in prison, as you reflect back on that and you live your life out now, does that motivate you to try to do something for the people still on the inside, for their families, for other things going on? What, as you reflect back on it, you've been out all this time
Sure.
and stuff. How does that impact you? Does that motivate you? Where are you at with that?
Couple of years after I got out, I did a couple speaking engagements with Celebrate Recovery, and my dad was still working for the prison.
Okay.
And he reached out to the warden there and said, I'd love to have my son come in. Is there any way we can make this happen?
Wow.
And I couldn't go into Kent County Jail. I couldn't pass the background stuff.
Yeah.
And God made it happen.
Wow.
Not once, but twice.
Twice.
Back into Ionia to speak to, the first time it was to a book club.
Okay.
It's about 15 guys. Had a great time with them. Went in, we just sat down and talked about life.
Wow.
And it wasn't even me delivering a testimony so much as it was them just having an opportunity to ask me some questions and just talk about life. Second time I went in, it was to an auditorium of guys, probably 80 or 90 guys came. And most of them came because when my dad wrote out the little, here's what's happening, he put, this is my son. So all those guys,
Yeah.
what's going on with this? Yeah.
That'll draw a crowd. Yeah.
That was the first time I remember my dad telling me that he was proud of me.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure there were other moments when I was growing up, but
That's the one you remember.
yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah.
Wow.
So it was a good moment to know there was some healing that happened in his heart too, through it all.
Wow.
Because I know, just how I was living, and I know it was tough on him.
Yeah.
He's working at a prison, and here I am with his same name. I've got his same name. We share a name, and I'm getting in trouble. So he has to justify to people why I'm coming back home to live with him.
Wow. If you were trying to reflect on your life, what you've learned, what God's done, and stuff like that, if you were to give a message of hope to people listening, this is a good time to do it.
I would say don't ever discount the power of prayer, first off. Prayer is so powerful. And the people that come in and say, I'm going to pray for you, allow them to pray for you. Transparency and accountability were big for me coming out. I knew that I had to be open for me personally, and I had to also work at connecting. And through that, I have felt the hand of God, the family of God, the protection of God just come around. And constantly through so many different things over the last 7 years since I've been out, It's just been God directing these steps, God directing this step here. I'm currently employed by the prison ministry that I did Bible studies with 20 some years ago.
Wow.
It's the enormity of that, to be able to talk to other people about prison ministry and just reaching out to people like that, and just reaching people and just treating them like humans, and get them on a different path. So
what would you say to people in the church to help them learn to care about people in prison?
Is to remember, at the end of the day, a sin is a sin is a sin. And we're all God's children. So if you want to have a better result out on the streets, it starts with just being human to people and pouring into them. You don't have to pour into everybody, but find your one or two people and just make a difference. Don't be afraid to make a difference.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, being real, sharing your story with us. You made a difference, and you're making a difference. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. God's never done.
He's never done. That's right. My name's John Smith. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Kingdom Real. God loves you, and we do too.